So it's been a while since we've had a Thinking Thursday, and I've been very keen to get Barry Stanton back involved again for various reasons. I don't know many people who have a more widespread knowledge of the industry, both as an owner and as track management, and of course involved within those tracks, or at least some of the tracks in terms of the betting industry. Um, Barry, lovely to see you again. Nice that you're not on holiday for a change, to be honest, but
I made a special exception for you, Floyd.
very decent of you. One of the theories that I wanted to go down, looking at today, was people talking about the industry dying, and I can see why they think it's dying. Personally, I don't think it is, but it's the analogy I would make and ask you to comment on is that it's almost like planet Earth. People going, oh, you're killing planet Earth, with pollution or whatever it may be. And I'm going, well, no, you won't actually kill planet Earth. You'll just make it unsurvivable for human beings. Planet Earth will be fine. And to a certain extent, I feel that about the ground industry. There's a lot of money still bet on greyhounds around the world. COVID has brought in a big expansion in the digital market that might not otherwise have happened. But for some of the people that we know, or the industry as we recognise, yes, there is part of that could become extinct. That the kind of, particularly on the ownership side, the traditional race nights, that kind of thing. What's your view on that?
Well, I agree with you in that I think greyhound racing will continue, but possibly just the worse form than we're experiencing now. And to everybody that's really interested in greyhound racing, that's grown up with greyhound racing, they must be in despair as to what is happening out there. I think the reality is that the media contracts have provided an income to the promoters that support the business or their initiatives, in that they don't have to open the doors to the general public any longer. They don't need to have footfall coming through the turnstiles. I mean, it's okay if they do turn up, that's okay. But as long as they can meet the requirements of their contract, that is of prime importance to them. I mean, if you take an example, I mean, Crayford, and I can speak quite knowledgeably about Crayford, having run the track for like 20 years. If they don't have a media contract on a Saturday night, or they're not on RPG TV, they don't race. And I know for a fact, with the crowds they've got, the catchment area that they've got, that would be a very profitable evening to them. But they can't be bothered. And I don't know whether that's laziness or whether or not they have other issues with staffing, which I think Entain tracks did at Christmas. They didn't race at all on Boxing Day. So the actual concern of the promoter, as it was when I was involved, it's, look, we must get them through the doors. We've got our overheads to cover. Is no longer there. So as long as they can put 12 races out on a morning or an afternoon or whenever it may be, then they're happy. And I think if you extend that, the only people that are going to be interested in going to those tracks or watching that racing are people that are already involved in it. You're not showcasing it to the outside world. And I think that's the decline of that started when we lost our Sky contract. It's as simple as that. We weren't showcasing our main events. We weren't marketing on the back of of Sky Sports at that any longer. And I think because of that, the interest declined, and it's got to the stage now where you can one man and his dog watching a greyhound race in the morning or in the afternoon. Very few tracks or no tracks racing that haven't got a media contract in the evenings, and I think that just spells disaster. I mean, as a spectator sport, I think it's on a very steep decline.
Which is interesting because we talk about Saturday night. If I said to you, okay, you're still the general manager at Crayford, how do you get people in on a Tuesday night, or don't you even try?
Well, you try. I mean, we had a marketing department back in those days. You see, I don't know what the setup is now, and I don't know where the focus is. But we had marketing departments, and we tried to bring in different groups of people. we were unsuccessful on a Monday night, and that's why we actually changed, I think it was in 2009 there, from a Monday to a Friday. And that was successful in that we went from maybe 200 people attending to 500 people attending. But the point is, if people, the general public, aren't seeing greyhound racing on the television, they're not reading about it in the local press, they're not being attracted to the track, they won't come. And you know, Boxing Day is a prime example. We try to, you know, it was the largest crowd as it would be at any track on Boxing Day. You've got a captive audience, then you can actually try and do something to bring them back at least a couple of times during the course of the year. And if you do that enough times, you know, you're building up a core base of attendees. The other thing, of course, is ownership is on the decline. I don't know what the numbers are at the moment, but I don't think there's anything attractive about owning a greyhound any longer. In fact, I think most people would see it as a liability. And, you know, coming back, I know we may talk about the GBGB later on, but I think, you know, GBGB, the industry is you know, it's focused on only one thing these days, and that's welfare. Money, all the money is being directed towards welfare. I mean, the whole thing is intertwined. I mean, if you attract people to a stadium, then you have to give them facilities that will make them feel comfortable, give them an enjoyable evening, and want them to come back. In the old, you know, when I say the old days, 10 years ago, or whatever, there was a sum of money that was going into to the tracks for developing the tracks, to improving facilities. That's by and large stopped now. There is no investment within the stadia. All of the money is going towards welfare, and of course the industry as a sport is dying because of it.
I think tied into that, there's an additional problem, is there not? In that, if you said, okay, we wanted to go back to our Fridays, how do you put, for a start, how many people do you need through the gate to actually make it viable if it's not for a betting shop meeting? And secondly, how do you put on your Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning, whatever day, how do you put in the other meeting simply for a lack of dogs?
Well, I mean, some tracks are racing 6 days a week, aren't they? I mean, I don't think there's a lack of dogs. I just think, I mean, there's a perception that there's a lack of dogs because there are so many 4 and 5 dog races. But if you actually look at the way in which those vacant traps are falling, they're probably more inclined towards the morning meetings. And there are no travelling reserves anymore. I mean, in my day, you'd have 25 dogs on the vans that were there ready to fill vacant traps, you know, dogs that hadn't been notified, hadn't turned up or whatever. But there isn't now. There are no travelling reserves, morning meetings, and to an extent early afternoon meetings. There isn't the time to fill those traps. I think if you look at the numbers, I don't think the numbers have declined. I just think it's the makeup of the race program. But coming back to the original question, I think, you know, if you open on an evening, you're only going to open, and it's important from a public perception point of view and to increase attendance, you open on the weekend. You open on a Friday night and Saturday night. And if you market it correctly and you're in a reasonable catchment area, you are going to bring people in. And 400 or 500 people made our Friday nights at Crayford extremely viable. Now, there is one promoter. I mean, there isn't the determination of the promoters to do that. I don't think. It's one promoter that's trying, and that's Kevin Boothby. I mean, he tried on a toaster on a Saturday night for as long as he could. He's trying again at the weekend at Oxford, and hopefully he'll be successful. But from what I've heard, it is bringing in the public, so it does work. But it has to be on a week, you know, on a day that people are available to actually go and enjoy their leisure pound.
To be honest, I think I'm slightly disagree with you in terms of the numbers. I think some of these tracks that I speak to, they can just about scrape the dogs together for their 2 or 3 SIS or art meetings. And
No, I agree with you. Sorry, when I said in total numbers, I don't think there is a decline. I think that it's the spread of greyhounds. There are tracks that are suffering more than others, so I agree entirely with you. And you know, it is very difficult. And again, it's down to what is available, but it's also down to the management of the group of trainers that you have, to be honest. I mean, you know, I'm not cutting, you know, I think that's the honest answer to that, that you have to support these trainers in one way or another, and you have to be interested in their business and try and guide them in the right direction, because not all of them are businessmen. You know, they find it difficult to run a business, and they need guidance, and they need help, and they need support. And I think you get commitment from them when you actually provide that.
Going back to talking about these 4 and 5 dog races, when you were a general manager, you would have had bags on your case on a reasonably, if not Gordon Bissett, on your case on a reasonably regular basis, saying, why were the 2 5-dog races at your last meeting? Now there's a proliferation of 4 and 5-dog races at so many meetings. Do you think that it makes a significant difference to the betting? I mean, I brought the subject up on Twitter recently, and I was basically told, no, providing the margins are there, they don't really care, that the betting industry doesn't really care. Do you think that's the case, or do you think
No,
you're better off with 6-dog races?
If they don't care, then things have changed since I was running a track. They care from the point of view that turnover is hit, multiple bets are affected, track challenges, all of that sort of thing would be affected, and yeah, they want some consistency as the customer and the punter wants consistency. But yeah, I just think it sends out the wrong message when you have a track and you're putting out so many, and not only 4 and 5-dog races, there's so many the proliferation of sprint races. I mean, I've never been a great fan of sprint races, to be honest. I mean, most tracks would have a sprint race and the dogs wouldn't even pass the grandstand, you know, where people are sitting eating, that the race would be over before they saw a dog pass them. And yeah, obviously they're necessary at times, but at the moment it's almost an accepted way to fulfill their contract, and to me that would be unacceptable.
Do you think, I had a theory again, which I'd be interested to know your views on, where we're saying that there's a thin spread of dogs, wouldn't it be in the bookmakers' best interest to say we'll have, I don't know, 10 good races rather than 12 bad races?
Well, I think that's been done in the past, and I think it's, you know, if you talk to a media company, they probably would want, you know, if it was a short-term problem, they would probably listen and be as helpful as they possibly could. I just think it's when you know you haven't got the dogs on the strength, you shrug your shoulders. Now we'll put up, you know, whatever we can. That isn't the attitude. You know, you have to take ownership of that problem and do something about it. I think, yeah, but I think you're right. I think bookmakers would prefer full track, you know, full 6-dog races rather than you know, a load of 5-dog and 4-doggers. That's for sure.